Welcome back. As we've told you before here at the Listening Post, Sierra Leone is a tough place to be a reporter. For many in the media, journalistic impartiality is often compromised by the threat of violence and the need for survival. Here's a case in point. In February of this year, the United Nations helped fund up a Sierra Leonean radio station to set up a debate about female circumcision. It's a traditional, what most of the world considers brutal practice that affects the lives of 90% of women in the country. Usually, female circumcision is carried out by secretive women's societies who are accused of mutilating thousands of young girls. These societies don't want their members talking about the practice, and certainly not to the media. The Listening Post's Salah Qadar now on 4 journalists, all of them women, who wanted the story told and the price they paid for that.
Kenema is Sierra Leone's 3rd largest city. Located in the east of the country, near the border with Liberia, it does not make international news often. But in February 2009, an incident brought Kenema to the attention of international media, including Reuters, the UK's Guardian newspaper, and CNN.
The Sierra Leonean Association of Journalists has condemned the abduction of 4 female journalists, allegedly by a group that supports female genital mutilation.
A local radio journalist was covering an event marking International Day of Zero Tolerance of Female Genital Mutilation, or FGM. Her station chief called looking for someone to interview.
And I said to her,
I have 2 women that will talk about what their goal is and what impact they want to create in this community. I gave the phone to them and they explained. And it was like, a row between my boss and the other woman. Talking about cutting continuously. And the woman says, the word is too vulgar. For you to say cut, we don't do cutting. So they ended the interview.
Secret society leaders, upset that radio had raised the issue of female circumcision, turned on local journalists. They made abusive calls and threatening remarks. Then, they summoned them to their hideout, the Society Bush.
We were told to sit on the floor, and they seized my colleagues' phones. Then we were told not to say a single word or to try to escape.
The journalists were paraded in the street.
They led the dance,
and I was in front of that dance. They were shouting, singing, all over the place. We've captured this UN radio reporter, and we won't let her go. I was now afraid for my life, and afraid, whatever I had said, afraid I don't know what they'd do to me.
According to them, these ladies put out things they felt were condemnatory of their traditional practice. And our information was that one of the ladies was stripped in the society hideout. And then later on, all 4 of them were paraded on the streets. We think that was a medieval way of behaving.
After 6 hours, the journalists were released. One of the women accused of holding the journalists is the Mammy Queen, the women's leader in the district. At first, she was reluctant to be interviewed. She doesn't like the way journalists cover secret societies.
We're not happy over the issues at all. We're not happy over the issue. When journalists, they go over the ear, they condemn about our culture, because it's our culture. So we don't like the idea. We don't support that.
She claims not to know anything about initiation ceremonies.
Yes, I don't know about what we are saying.
She also claims she had nothing to do with the abduction of the journalists.
Not at all.
Raising the issue of FGM can be challenging, even when the police are involved. When a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old unwittingly stumbled into secret society premises in Kenema, they were threatened with initiation before being allowed to leave. Journalist Mohammed Vandi covered the story for the Concord Times.
The difficulty there is that anytime we talk about it, we are targeted. And especially now in the eastern region, the women in this region are focusing the journalists as enemies. They are accusing us that we are always going out to propagate negatively about our own culture.
Female circumcision is an issue that divides Sierra Leone. Based in the capital, Freetown, the Cotton Tree News is a foreign-funded news provider for Sierra Leone radio stations.
Hello and welcome to H1N1 Talk.
When journalist Florence Liliema Kata's radio special on FGM aired in November 2008, it led to protests.
Inside today's program, we will talk about what organization.
She thinks the risk is worth it.
Promoting FGM, especially in our community in Sierra Leone, it is a danger. Because you're talking about a country which has the highest maternal deaths. So especially FGM, the cotton issue, it's a danger.
According to the law in Sierra Leone, initiation into secret societies is prohibited below the age of 18 without a child's consent. It seems politicians are wary of outright condemnation of something popular with so many voters.
The government position is that we would not, and the president insists that we should not impose ideas on people. Let's just open it to public debate so that people discuss it, to guide even the government as to how to pursue it. FGM is quite a controversial issue in this country. It's not enough to merely say FGM is not good or FGM is good. The media should educate the people, give the scientific explanations as to the advantages and disadvantages of FGM.
I don't think if politicians are there against our society, not. Because then if they can, with them picking them, can take them at their home, then they put them in a society.
It is very dangerous in meeting them to say, stop what you're doing. They form majority of the voters. They find that particular job as a source of living because that's the way they're making their monies. That's the way they're taking care of their families. You should just not tell them, stop FGM. Find another source of living. Encourage them to do something else.
I've decided to
censor most of my reports that I do, especially when it comes to FGM. The calls that I received that night, they were saying to me, you just say goodbye to your life. Can you imagine? Anytime I think of it, I'm always in tears.
Without adequate protection, it appears that self-censorship on the part of journalists could stifle this public debate before it really begins.
More Global Village Voices now on the reporting of female circumcision in Sierra Leone.
When it comes to FGM, the defenders of FGM feel like they've been often erased from the story by the way the story is covered by the Western media. The defenders of FGM are lashing out at people covering the story, no matter how balanced their coverage may be, because they feel like whenever a journalist approaches it, they're only going to do so in a biased fashion.
It would be very hard for journalists in Sierra Leone to report on such sensitive issues without facing retribution from traditionalists. Their very definition of our culture, of our society, is deeply rooted in their ideals and their beliefs and these practices. So if reports are from the standpoint of demonizing them, the way the Western media necessarily would, then they automatically are going to defend themselves and their ideals.
For the practitioners, FGM is their only means of income. It is a profit-making institution. The government and other organizations have to provide alternatives for practicing FGM, and they have to inform the public about the health hazards that come with it. And since the government doesn't do this, journalists will have to.
Finally, you've heard of the proverbial bull in the china shop, but what happens when he hits the supermarket? Thanks to closed-circuit security cameras, one young bull has become an international online star after an unscheduled shopping spree in County Mayo, Ireland. That's Mayo as in mayonnaise. This is the bull's story as told on Irish television news. One thing before we roll the tape: no humans were harmed in the making of this film. It's our internet video of the week, and we'll see you next time at The Listening Post.